Valley Talk on News Talk 1580 KGAL.
Welcome to Valley Talk. I'm Dave Adams. It is tax time once again, and we are pleased to have in our studios Robert White, who is an enrolled agent with H&R Block, and the plan is to have Robert here on the first and third Tuesdays of every month up until tax time. Now, in April this year, April 16th, the third Tuesday of that month is the day after taxes. So on that month, we're going to have Robert in on the first and second Tuesday of the month, which is April 2nd and 9th. But up until then, mark your calendars. If you have tax questions, feel free to give us a listen. First and third Tuesdays of the month up until April. And then in April, it's the first and second Tuesdays of the month. And we'll be devoting the whole show for taxes. But first 10 minutes of the show, as we're going to do today, we also have John Gibson in the studio, and he's going to talk to us about something going on in the stock market. John, what's going on?
Well, the stock market has all these phraseologies. My favorite is dead cat bounce. It doesn't have anything to do with a cat. It has to do with short covering. There's another phrase called don't fight the Fed. Okay, and the Feds have come out and announced that they're going to make sure that interest rates stay low until unemployment gets, I think it's 7.5% or 6.5%. I forget the first number. So you have companies knowing that they're going to have access to cheap money, and you're going to see profits coming in. We're in the middle of reporting season. So the profits are all coming in really good, and the market's way up at 14. I didn't think it would go up. The problem is, on the other half of it, we're seeing a lot of layoffs. We're seeing companies like Darden who are saying we're going to take our 40-hour-a-week employees and take them down to 30. So it's kind of like a schism between Wall Street and Main Street in the sense that the corporations are doing quite well, and yet on the other hand, we're seeing unemployment rates going up. We saw a jobs number, which I was surprised by the reaction to. We created 157,000 jobs in January, and the thing that I saw, the estimate was 192. So when I heard 157, I thought, oh my God, the market's down 200 points. And it was up. And even people on Fox was going, what a great jobs number. Well, in Reagan's term, to use a composite of a two-year president, I remember jobs of 600,000, 700,000 per month. The corporations and the Fed and everybody on the interest rate side are doing very well. And the people on the other side, the more common workers, we're seeing layoffs. Time Magazine, DuPont, I think Caterpillar, and I can't remember the fourth one, but I think Time was laying off 10% of its employees, or numbers to that effect. That's a lot of real jobs,
Are we seeing companies get very, very efficient in how they operate?
Yes.
Do it with more work with less people? And
more work with less people. Now we're going to combine these two jobs, and you're going to be, but we're not going to raise your salary. A friend of mine at a bank in Lebanon was told to either take the deal or retire, and she retired, and bless her heart. But yeah, we're seeing the workers getting squeezed, and the people that can play with the money doing really good. So how does that turn out? Well, what's going to happen? As people's incomes go down, they have less money to consume. And we're also seeing the 10-year note go from 1.6% to now it's yielding 2.1%. That's almost a 50 basis point rise, or I guess that would close. I got an accountant here. I don't want to do my math wrong. But that's a heck of a rise. And so you're having less money being spent in the economy. You're going to have less money going into taxes because the people aren't paying their payroll taxes now. Mm-hmm. And you're going to have a higher amount of our money going to finance our debt, because the 10-year note is a 10-year note that we owe somebody, either us or China or people like us. We can buy them. So everybody, even the guy named Dr. Doom, the most negative guy in the stock market, came out on CNBC today and said he sees a 15% rise in the stock market this year if everything plays out. I've been through 1987. I've been through the tech bubble. I've been through the house bubble. We're now in a credit bubble and a debt bubble. I just don't know when it's going to pop. So the best thing to do, I'm taking part of my portfolio and I'm buying a house. I'm buying a hard real estate. The other half is still in an IRA and an annuity, a very awful investment I wish I'd have never made, but it's there. Not for any, just because they the way tie you up and stuff. But anyways, so if the market continues to go up, I still win. And if it tanks and goes down, I'm just like everybody else,
The question I've got, Dell, this is kind of off the beaten path a little bit. Dell Computers is going to go private. They're going to the owner of Dell Computers is buying back his stock, going to go private. Why would a person want to do that?
Because you get away from all the regulations. My goodness, when you are a private company, you don't have to report to shareholders. You don't have to report to Fed. You are a private company. When you go public, you might as well strip down to your underwear, and they will take bribes. I mean, you take the EU, for instance. They had this big fight with Microsoft. All they wanted was the payoff, So if you stay private, you don't have any of the headaches, and you have so much more freedom. If you're a public company, you can't sell your stock on certain days. You can't buy your stock on certain days. It's all, it's just, these are the regulations that everybody goes, oh, regulations, they don't matter. Well, yes, they matter greatly, and this is a big example of a big company saying, you know what, it's just not worth it. So, that's
what does that mean for the future of the company? Are they going to have less money to work with?
I think they'll have more money. They'll have less regulations to comply with. I mean, I have a friend with a multi-million-dollar business in Denver, and they have one person that just does paperwork all day long just to comply. They do federal work, and so, oh my God, So yeah, it's a nightmare to work for the government, So that's.
President Obama's going to be making a speech. I don't know if he already has.
He already has.
On the budget. What did you listen to that?
No, it was on 10:15, and I was taking my stepdaughter to school. Yesterday was the last day for him to propose his budget, and fifth year. I think he's proposed 2, and 3 years he hasn't proposed any, and this is another one. So he's going to come out, and he's either going to, sequestration is coming up March 1st, okay? So he's going to come out, and he's going to pretty much present his plan. From the Republican side of what I've seen on TV is they are very firm about they don't want to talk about any more tax increases. We've settled a tax increase on January 1st. Now it's time to do the budget cuts. So my prediction will be he will come out and he'll talk about tax increases, and the Republicans will talk about spending cuts. And until things get to where it hurts the average American, nobody's going to care. You know what the difference between a recession and a depression is?
What's that?
A recession is when your neighbor loses his job. A depression is when you lose your job. So when it gets to that point, I think we'll see a change in direction, because it's all about the spending. We just can't spend like we're doing.
Interesting. Any other comments before we change gears? Okay. Stock market, and every Tuesday we have John Gibson in here, first part of the show. For the first 10-15 minutes, we take a look at what's going on in the day's news, how it relates to the stock market. John's sake, John is the average investment guy. He tries to take it to a common denominator so you and I can both understand kind of what's going on from his perspective, and we appreciate that that commentary. We do want to remind you to sign up for Quiznos Taste on Us. Every day during the show, we give away a $10 gift certificate from Quiznos in Albany. You can send me an email, dave@kgal.com, and you can also call the station at 451-KGAL or 926-KGAL, 451-KGAL or 926-KGAL. Say you want to be put into the Quiznos Taste on Us drawing. End of the show, we'll draw out a name and give that lucky person a gift certificate. They can use that for sub sandwich, chips, drink, whatever, at Quiznos in Albany, next to Novak's Restaurant, and also next to the former G.I. Joe Sporting Goods location. And thanks to Dale and the crew. Good sandwiches. I eat there every lunch, and it's delicious. So do highly recommend Quiznos in Albany. They do good work, good people, and it's good for you. Quiznos, Taste on Us. I'm Dave Adams, Valley Talk. First and third Tuesdays of every month up until tax time, we talk about taxes. We have the pleasure of having in our studio Robert White, who is an enrolled agent with H&R Block.
Yes.
Robert, what is an enrolled agent, first of all?
Good question. An enrolled agent is someone that is, the official term, enrolled to address, basically it represents someone before the IRS. And it's It involves a lot of testing, background testing, not background, but the way I describe it to a lot of people is I took 3 5-hour exams, and they were harder than my PhD prelims. Once you are an enrolled agent, you are allowed to go before the IRS and represent or act on someone's behalf, similar to an attorney or a CPA. We sometimes joke amongst ourselves, and hope CPAs don't take this incorrectly, but of the three, we're the only ones that are actually tested on our tax knowledge. And I know I'll hear about that from some of my CPA friends. But that is...
I hear some giggling out there right now.
Yeah, so that's what an enrolled agent allows us to do. We get a power of attorney, and then we can actually act on behalf and represent someone with regards to their tax issues.
First thing that a lot of people have probably noticed, I filed online this year again, and my returns have been accepted. First, they were accepted by the state of Oregon. I filed, by the way, with H&R Block online. Mm-hmm. Very easy to follow. Filed the return, and then they gave me a notice saying on the January 30th, IRS would accept those returns. I didn't get a notice when they were actually accepted by either the state of Oregon or the federal government. First, a few days ago, I got a notice that the state of Oregon has accepted your return. Congratulations. And then the same day, I got a notice that the federal government had accepted my return. So, where are we as far as the IRS acceptance of returns and what's going on? Obviously, there was a delay because they were haggling over the tax code, and now here we are.
The good news is it worked on the 30th. They gave us, initially it was scheduled for the 22nd, and they realized just because it was just too much pushed up to the last day, and the IRS came back and, rightfully so, said, we're just not going to be ready until the 30th. And fortunately, it worked, and there's a big sigh of relief across the nation as people started getting their notifications on Friday. I think a lot of them first got them on Saturday, that their returns had, in fact, been accepted.
One of those sighs was mine, by the way.
Yes, okay. And there's an interest, so that was the good news. It went through. There's still forms that are not available. They've been on schedule for that. The IRS is, they told us ahead of time we won't be available for certain forms, and they're still on clockwork. An example I know John is concerned with, I am too, is Schedule Ds which is what we use to report stock transactions. That's scheduled for maybe another week or so, but in some cases that's not too critical because a lot of the brokerage houses aren't required to send out their notices until February 15th.
So what do you mean? Is it the brokerage houses that haven't sent out the schedules? Or the IRS?
I'm sorry, just jumping to subject. There's two things. The form is not available by the IRS. Okay. Because but in turn also a lot of brokerage houses have not sent their reports out to individuals. 1099-B for brokerage statement, 1099-D IV for dividend.
And the reason for all that, wasn't it because we didn't know if my capital gains was going to be at my normal tax rate or at 15%,
exactly.
Correct? Long-term capital gains.
The IRS couldn't process them because they didn't know how we're going to go through the system.
So for people that don't know, on my Schedule D, you have to list out, and then the brokerage house sends it to the IRS too,
yes.
And then that better match up.
And that's one of those issues that we often, when I made a comment about, we represent people in the summer. Up until a year or so ago, all that was reported to the IRS was the sale of the stock or transaction, not the cost. And so we'd have people walk in, and I remember one person a couple years ago, did penny stocks. And he walked in, he had a $50,000 bill from the IRS because he had almost $1 million in transactions. But he didn't have what it cost him. And when we got finished, he actually lost money. They've tightened that up, so now that the brokerage houses are actually supposed to report the basis, that is the cost someone pays for those stock transactions, and that's helped simplify things.
Well, and you have to keep a track of that, yes. Because over time you get splits, you get all sorts of stuff, man. If you don't keep track of that, that's a nightmare for you guys.
So do you report the basis or how much the stock cost and then what you sold it for, and then the IRS figures out the profit? Is that
profit or loss? Gain or loss, and that's okay. Critical. Mm-hmm. So that's a good time though. If you start having a lot of those transactions, then you may want to be careful about doing your own return online. And you made a lot of people do their returns online, and that is we recognize that is we're not fighting it because it's the real world. And so that's why H&R Block actually has their own, we compete with TurboTax.
There's two big players out there right now, TurboTax and H&R Block.
Yes.
There's a number of other smaller players, but those are the two big guys on the block.
And you can see the advertising, they're kind of going back at each other and online. And my feeling is you usually don't get in trouble online doing it yourself or doing it with software. You may tend to leave something on the table. And that's, of course, with our program is that if you use H&R Block online or the program, if you get a letter, you can always go walk into an H&R Block office and review it and see what, if there's an issue.
I guess what I would recommend before you do it online is run a good virus scanner on your computer. Make sure there's not something on your computer called, typically they call them keyloggers. A keylogger is a program that is clandestine and records your keystrokes on your computer. And so it's a little guy with a notepad there, and he's writing down all the keys that you type when you type, and then that information is sent off to a hacker, and that hacker then has whatever you typed on your keyboard he has. Now, there's a lot of good antivirus programs out there. I would strongly recommend you do it before you do your tax returns. I've done my tax returns online for quite a while, and I did it online. I used the H&R Block online program that worked very well. I've used, to be quite honest, I used TurboTax the last couple of years, and this was the first year I used H&R Block online. One of the things I liked about the H&R Block program was that if I'm audited, they will go with me.
That's right.
Even if I did it online.
That's right. And I'm one of the people you talk to afterwards if it happens. Another interesting aspect, as I mentioned in the beta, we said everything went on the 30th. Well, the IRS did some testing, and they used H&R Block, literally, because we're the big guys on the block for submitting returns, and they used about a week or so, 2 weeks before, they actually processed some of the returns we had, just to see if things were going to work. And an interesting thing popped out that about a week before, 30,000 of the educational credits did not process. So that's the IRS has now pushed off the acceptance of educational credit forms until the second week of February. They used us as a test, found out, oops, which is better than having everything crash.
Yeah.
So that was nice. So we're letting our clients know that it's.
So somebody's listening to this show right now, and they have that particular part of their tax. Maybe they haven't filed yet, and they're hearing what you're saying. So should they hold off, or what should they do? No,
go ahead and file. Well, if they come in H&R Block, we're filing. We're processing the returns, and we have a system where they are on hold within our system, and literally as soon as the IRS accepts them, they're just going to automatically go. So we're telling that because we can still, the forms were made available in our system, but there was a holdup at the IRS, so we can process the returns and we just have them ready to go. And so we just have a daily we check, and we're keeping track of how our system tracks who's on hold. Literally, I think in our particular office, I think I had over 45 up to this point yesterday.
A lot of people who filed early, obviously, are doing so to get their refunds. You're telling me, how long will it take to get a refund? You're telling me some people have already got them.
Well, that's anecdotal. On the official position of the IRS was up to 3 weeks. In the past years, they literally would give us a schedule. They would tell us if someone filed by a certain date, they would have the refund by a specific date. We had a nice calendar because they were so uncertain. They just set a blanket up to 3 weeks. I've had some people tell me that they have received their refunds. I don't know. I can't confirm. But, I've heard that already, and that seems really quick for me. But I think that part's going to be all right. I'm not too worried about that too much.
Okay. Well,
I have a personal question.
Yes.
You said something about a pre-PhD, and also used the word plural. PhDs. How many PhDs do you have?
I have one PhD.
That's a hard thing to get. What's the deal?
That's in zoology. I've actually got a bachelor's and master's, and I received a PhD at Oregon State University.
Wow, man.
In zoology?
In biology, yeah. I was I
got a 4-year degree in psychology. What a joke. I mean, you got a real degree, man.
When I finished in the 70s, field sciences, researcher, there weren't many opportunities in the real world. So I've never hesitated about working. So I went right into sales and very successful at that. And the comment was, no one can ever take my degree away from me. But it goes back to, I love analysis. I love research. That's why I enjoy doing taxes so much.
Well, when I'm listening to the radio and I'm hearing a tax guy and I found he's got a PhD, I kind of want to go to that guy, you know.
So I enjoy really, someone rings in, I tell people I'm not going to let go of this until I find out an answer for them, and it helps me with the understanding the university issues, the tuition, school credits, and anything. I enjoy it. I enjoy the challenge.
Wow. Robert White is an enrolled agent with H&R Block. When we come back, we're going to talk about some other things, such as overlooked medical deductions for those 62 and over. What other things are we going to be talking about next half hour?
We're going to talk some more about some other things that are, people just tend to overlook a little bit, I think.
Okay, so get your notepad out, and we'll take some notes, and we'll learn about taxes together. This is Valley Talk. I'm Dave Adams. Glad you're with us. Be right back.
The Shed Institute and the Emerald City Jazz Kings present Flying Home, the best of Benny Goodman, with one show in Corvallis this Friday, 7:30 p.m. What can you say about Benny Goodman that hasn't already been said? No one can compare to the quality of his band, his versions of popular tunes of the time, and his instantly recognizable sound, vibrato and technique on the clarinet. He was indeed the king of swing. Jesse Cloninger and the Jazz Kings in big band formation pay tribute to the king with Get Happy, Body and Soul, Moonglow, Sing, 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 and of course, Flying Home. The Jazz Kings is a big band of fine Northwest musicians, plus an excellent group of singers. One performance only in Corvallis this Friday, 7:30 p.m. For more information, go to KGAL.com or KShow.net and click on the OFAM link or call 541-434-7000. Tickets will also be available at the door. The Emerald City Jazz Kings at LaSalle Stewart Center on the OSU campus.
More Ink Printing in Albany. The same people and the same passion for printing and serving you.
I'm Mike from More Ink. At More Ink, we can make your presentations pop, your business cards connect, and your brochures become bold. Letterheads, manuals, menus, flyers, event posters, and programs. We do it all at More Ink.
Mike and his crew at More Ink are still around to get your custom projects noticed. More Ink on Sandy M Road in the Carriage House Plaza in Albany. Visit moreinkalbany.com.
Call 541-928-2675 for More Ink.
Lebanon shopping, it just makes sense. Myra's Cookies makes fresh-baked cookies and cinnamon rolls. Perfect for get-togethers, meetings, family treats, or thank yous. I deliver locally or mail. Hi, this is Myra. Call me now at 541-905-5152. That's 541-905-5152 for Myra's Cookies.
Need tires? Hi, this is Don from Conegat Tire Factory. From lawnmowers to tractors, cars, and trucks, we have what you need. And Conegat Tire's ASE certified mechanics can help you with your brakes, shocks, struts, alignment, oil changes, and stuff you won't believe. Even propane for your barbecue and RV. Conegat Tire Factory, still at the Y in Lebanon.
Looking for a specific business or service in Lebanon? Call or come by the Lebanon Chamber of Commerce and Visitor Center. We'll put you in touch with the business you need for any situation. 1040 South Park Street across from Conegat Tire in Lebanon.
Lebanon shopping, it just makes sense.
Now you can manage your printers as easy as you manage your copiers. Managed print services from Ultrex, maintenance, toner cartridges, and repairs, all in just one monthly payment. Hewlett-Packard, Lexmark, Brother, just to name a few. All you have to do is buy the paper. It's that easy. Just call Ultrex today and ask about their managed print services. Ultrex Business Solutions, your locally owned and operated copier company, proudly supporting our community. Ultrex Business Solutions.
Laugh, cry, or get scared spitless with When Radio Was. Weeknights at 10 on 1580 KGAL.
This is Valley Talk. I'm Dave Adams, 11:29 the time. Don't forget to sign up for Quiznos Taste on Us. At the end of this very show, we're going to be drawing a name out of the hat, and if you have signed up either on email, just send me an email to dave@kgal.com, put Quiznos Taste on Us on the subject line, or call the station at 926-KGAL or 451-KGAL. Put you into the drawing, and you, my friend, could get a $10 gift certificate from Quiznos in Albany. Good for anything in the store, sandwiches, chips, drinks, whatever. Take a buddy and have lunch on us, because the taste is on us from Quiznos, one of the sponsors of Valley Talk here on KGAL. Thanks to Dale and the crew for participating. Take a look at the calendar, what we have coming up on the show tomorrow. We are going to be having Paul Aziz, the mayor of Lebanon, in here during, I believe, the second half of the show. And he's going to be in here at 11:30. We're going to be talking about it seems to have quite a frequent changing in the guard there at the police chief's position in Lebanon, and a lot of people, I know the Democrat Herald has run a couple stories on that. We're going to talk to Paul and see if we can get some more information on that. Also, Mountain Man Fruit and Nut is going to be here from 11 to 11:30 tomorrow, right here on Valley Talk. So invite you to join us then for the show. Today, we have John Gibson, average investment guy, here in the studio. Thank you for being with us, John.
Yeah, thank you.
And Robert White, an enrolled agent with H&R Block. And again, a reminder that the first and third Tuesdays of every month up until tax time, we're going to have Robert back in here talking about tax issues. One of the things we want to talk about now are overlooked deductions, those things you kind of miss, but mean some dollars out of your pocket that, as Robert earlier said, you're leaving it on the table. Overlooked medical deductions for those 62 and over.
Yes, and what brought this up, I'm already doing returns, and I've already made some of my older folks, even though I'm older than them, feel quite happy. A lot of times people, when they do their own returns, and they'll go through the Schedule A, which is where you itemize your deductions, and it's very common to, especially if someone might have health insurance already, to not have enough to claim. They say, I don't have enough medical to claim because we currently have like a ceiling or a deductible of 7.5% of the adjusted gross income, which will go to 10% next year. So a lot of times people just ignore that. Well, for those who live in Oregon, and if married jointly or single, if one of the spouses is at least 62, Oregon will allow you to add that portion that you were not allowed to claim on the federal to your itemized deductions for Oregon. It's called, and it's literally, so that increases the itemized deductions for Oregon. And this can be significant. It can be $4,000 or $5,000 that you couldn't take advantage of on the federal, but it increases your deductions for Oregon, and it's and that's can be huge, and we see it a lot, and it's. So I encourage people, whoever you have doing your return, don't necessarily assume you won't be able to itemize. Well, you may not itemize on federal, but again, Oregon allows you to itemize on their return even though you didn't use the Schedule A for federal. I'll give you an example. Married filing jointly, the standard deduction is $11,900. Standard deduction is an amount that has been determined that a married couple is a basis that costs them to live, and we call it the standard deduction. If you have expenses that are beyond that, that's when we say you are itemizing. The most common people are familiar with is home mortgage interest, property taxes, literally your state withholding counts towards that. It could be also additional business expenses or unreimbursed employee expenses. And then there's the medical one down there at the bottom. So now this standard deduction for married filing jointly for the state is $4,055. So I literally had a couple in yesterday. Their itemized deductions are going to be about $10,000 federal. But when we do the Oregon, and that doesn't include the portion that didn't count on federal, so they are going to be almost 8,000 or 9,000 state itemized deductions. And they said, literally, we didn't know we could do that. Mm-hmm. And so actually, I'm going to go back and look at some of their prior year returns and see if we can help them out on that. So that's very common for people to miss, and it's huge. But
I'm not 62, but I do that. Mm-hmm. And I mean, even mileage. I have to drive to Kaiser to Salem, so I have a little book, and I just write down 75 miles, and
and it's not listed. Just the 62 has to do with the medical, but in general, go ahead whenever you do a return and fill out everything for Schedule A, and if you have a good software programmer will catch that, and it's literally you itemize for state but not for federal. So that it's same thing. That's not unusual.
Let's talk about keeping track of mileage. Let's say you're keeping track of medical miles and business miles. Let's say, for example, you've got somebody that's doing charity work. Maybe they're delivering Meals on Wheels or whatever. And
that's me.
Okay,
that's me.
That's John.
Good for you.
Thank you for doing that.
Good for you.
Yeah.
So you've got the donation, the charity miles. Maybe you've got trips to the doctor. Maybe you have to go to Portland for dialysis or whatever.
Yes.
And then you've got work. Well, let's make it really complicated. You got charity miles.
All right.
Okay. You have medical mileage.
Yes.
Let's say you have your own business on the side. You've got your own business miles. And then let's say you're a sales rep for KGAL, and you have non-reimbursed miles for working as an employee.
Okay.
So you have 4 different categories there. Should you keep more than one record or delineate between the 4?
Yes.
All 4?
I would, because literally you have different mileage rates. So you have a different mileage rate for charity. You have a different one for medical. And the reason you want to delineate those is that, and it's always written. You should always write it down. The IRS says, do you have records? And you say yes. Is it written? And they say yes. Now, it doesn't have to be very fancy, but it needs to be literally so written in a form. So if you had to produce or explain those miles, you could. And
question.
Yes.
What I do is I track my mileage on a spreadsheet online.
Okay.
That's not written. What do they think?
That counts. You've recorded it. You've recorded it in some way. As long as you could print that out and produce it.
And maybe put the reason for the trip and so on and so forth.
And that's excellent form.
And depending on, somebody once told me that maybe if you could lay your appointment book next to it, if they wanted to drill down that far, that it's just extra proof.
And they do.
They?
That's one of the methods. That's the very common thing. They will say, okay, here's your mileage log. Let's see your appointment book and see if they match. So if you say doctor's appointment on a certain day, you've got your mileage. And that's why a lot of the traditional appointment books, which I literally went back to the paper version. I used to use PDAs. I went back to paper because it's easier to write. And at the bottom, you can write down the mileage and the purpose of the trip. And there's reasons for that old basic purpose of the trip. For your own business, where it's your own individual business, if you are using your home as your office, then you can start your mileage from that point. If you are, when you're working for, and I'll jump to the KGAL, if you are doing mileage from that, typically in that case, you would be commuting to the work, and then from that point on, if you have to go out and drive from there, that mileage counts. But you can't count the commute to and from work, but
question. Let's say you start out and you don't go to the station, you go to your first appointment.
Okay.
And let's say you start out in the morning and you just go to your appointments and don't even go to the station. Does it count from your home to the first appointment?
It would in that case, because you didn't go to you were designated to go straight out to the other job.
Home business expenses. You can write out a portion of your rent and so on and so forth. Let's make it real complicated. Let's say at your home,
all right,
you're doing your home-based business, but you're also working out of your home for, let's use, I'd hate to pick on KGAL, but we'll use it because we can get the name out there. But let's say you're a sales rep for KGAL, and you're working out of your home, and you're doing some of that, but you're also doing a business on the side.
That's a good,
interesting.
2 things. First of all, if you are working out of your home for your convenience, rather than then you cannot deduct that. And a classic example has been with teachers. Teachers would often go and they do a tremendous amount at home, but they've ruled that technically they could have done the same thing at the school. So they've not allowed to deduct home use as an office. So you would have to have a specific, the company would have to say that they are having you work out of your home for their convenience.
Do they have to make a statement to that regard?
Pretty much on record, it would have to be.
So are these all rules developed by chasing the criminal, or are they trying to anticipate the cheater? I mean,
yes to both.
Yeah,
because basically a lot of times they find out they reach a point where they find this has been abused. We better not let it happen again.
Right.
And that's So that's why they're very specific. And so, but a lot of times you might work for a company that's elsewhere, and it's just more convenient. And some large companies do. They specifically say it's more convenient for us to have you work out of your home, and then that's legitimate. Now you have to have when you do that, you have to have that area of your home be exclusive for business. You can't, and they're to the point now where most companies
take pictures.
Not that detailed, but the biggest one that we are tending to have people not include is their computer. because at home, because let's say there has to be for exclusive. So, well, the first question says, well, do you use your computer to send email to anyone else? Or do you use your computer to reconcile your personal checking account? As soon as you've done that, that's no longer exclusive use.
Yeah.
So it's a hard line we take, but by taking that, we never have to worry about someone.
I thought that I could do that when I bought my first, and I was told no.
They've really, because it was being abused so badly. So, but we have people they work out of their homes, and it's legitimate, and it doesn't have to be a room. It can be a small corner, and maybe the filing cabinet. They've got the desk, and we don't count the computer, but that square footage counts, and that's proportioned out. Mm-hmm. Now, there's a very big thing that just happened in the tax code that's going to happen next year that we think is terrific, because before we had to document all this information, how much we'd use rent and everything else, and then do depreciation and all these deductions. IRS has come up with a proposal that starting next year we can deduct get the number right. Oh, I went blank. It's either $5 a square foot or $3 a square foot, up to a maximum of $1,500, just straight. And they've estimated it's millions of hours of time saving and tax preparation if they go to that.
Yeah.
And it's going to be next year. So they are going to
do that.
They are going to. It's proposed, and we can't find anyone's objecting. And it's it's just literally you can claim the square footage, and I believe it was $5 a square foot, maximum 300 square feet. For home office use, and it's just then you don't have to report the rent, the fire, the homeowners insurance, all those things, and then they would be proportioned out before. So it's worked. I think it's terrific.
Tax simplification. It actually is happening, huh?
Really in kind of a tight place. On one hand, you have more and more rules and regulations that you have to follow up on, and you spend so many hours doing that. And then you see these politicians in election time pulling out a postcard going, this is going to be our new tax system, and your heart must just sink. But it'll never happen.
It'll never happen. But that's the one that we couldn't believe what a great idea.
Make your job easier.
Because normally the home office deduction traditionally is not very large.
And isn't it a big red flag?
It can be if it's not documented properly, and if it's not a red flag for us because we see questions we ask. We really drill down. But it's when people do it on their own and wing it, then they have problems.
Oh, they'll believe me. I'll just say I use my home as an office. Hey, we're going to take a break right now. If you have any questions, send me an email, dave@kgal.com. We'll check our email here shortly. More with John Gibson, myself, and enrolled agent Robert White of H&R Block. We'll be back in just a moment on Valley Talk.
The Osgood File, sponsored in part by Regis. Let Regis help you to focus on your business while they take care of your workspace needs. Get 2 months free on a fully wired and furnished office. Call 1-800-OFFICES. This is Charles Osgood. In many ways, an orangutan is like a woman or a man, or like a human kid. They've liked the same things that we did. 2 orangutans at the National Zoo get to play with iPads, too. Apes with apps are now in style. In a moment, you'll meet Bonnie and Kyle. Businesses, from startups to Fortune 500 firms, have something in common. They're intentional. They focus on success, and they don't get distracted. And many successful businesses have something else in common. They work from a Regis office. Your beautifully furnished wired Regis office can be ready when you need it, with a receptionist, access to meeting rooms, and state-of-the-art video conferencing, all with no long-term lease. Regis is the new way to work. Call 1-800-OFFICES and get 2 months free when you mention Osgood. That's 1-800-OFFICES. In this moment, who has your back? An insurance company delivering excellence during your claims process? Auto Owners Insurance has been recognized as highest in customer satisfaction with the auto insurance claims experience 5 years in a row by J.D. Power and Associates. Let an Auto Owners independent insurance agent have your back, so when the unthinkable happens, you get the claim service you deserve. For J.D. Power and Associates award information, go to jdpower.com. Find your local independent agent at autoowners.com. From Washington at the National Zoo, I'm pleased to introduce to you our CBS News colleague, Susan McGinnis. And Sue, in turn, will present to you not one orangutan, but 2.
Keepers at the Smithsonian's National Zoo have introduced these apes to the iPad.
What are we going to play today?
36-year-old Bonnie enjoys playing the drums. 16-year-old Kyle likes to watch videos. Keeper Aaron Stromberg says the iPads are a natural fit for the highly intelligent primates.
It's just really fun to watch them interact with something and get such enjoyment and flip through it and really understand what they're doing, tapping the drums, playing the piano.
Do they play Words with Friends?
While the orangutans here at the National Zoo don't play Words with Friends, they like many of the same apps popular with children. A nonprofit conservation group called Orangutan Outreach is behind apps for apes. Director Richard Zimmerman says orangutans with iPads are ambassadors for their critically endangered cousins in the wild.
We want people to see that these are amazing creatures, and they're not that different from us.
Of course, orangutans in the wild don't have iPads, but Susan says
Eventually, keepers hope the National Zoo orangutans can Skype tech-savvy counterparts at other zoos around the world.
The Osgood File. Transcripts, podcasts, and MP3s of these programs can be found at theosgoodfile.com. This is Charles Osgood on the CBS Radio Network.
The Lynn County Republican Party proudly announces a very special lineup of speakers for this year's Lincoln Day dinner. Joining State Senator Betsy Close and State Representative Andy Olson will be Lynn County Sheriff Tim Muller. All this and a great dinner, too. It's Saturday, February 16th, 6 p.m. at LBCC. Order tickets online now at LynnCountyRepublicanParty.org. The annual Lincoln Day dinner, Saturday, February 16th, 6 p.m. at LBCC in Albany. See you there.
Jay Farner here from Quicken Loans. We get a lot of tweets from folks that sound just like this. Jay, I bought my home in 2007. Since then, it's gone down in value. Now I owe more on my mortgage than my home is worth. Can I refinance? The answer may very well be yes. Recently, the government announced changes that may allow folks to refinance even if their home has lost value. For example, if you owe $300,000 on your mortgage, but your home's only worth $150,000, Quicken Loans may still be able to help you. Or if your current mortgage rate is higher than 3.99%, you've got to give us a call today at 800-QUICKEN. And for 3 years in a row now, J.D. Power & Associates has ranked Quicken Loans highest in the nation in customer satisfaction for primary mortgage origination. So if your current mortgage is higher than 3.99%, or if you owe more than your home is worth, call Quicken Loans today at 800-QUICKEN or go to QuickenLoans.com.
For J.D. Power & Associates award information, visit jdpower.com. Important terms and conditions apply. Calls for cost information. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states and MLS number 3030.
You can call us lefty or you can call us righty. We just call it Smarty Talk on 1580 KGAL.
Hey, we're talking about taxes. Robert White is an enrolled agent, H&R Block. This is Valley Talk. Right before we came back from the break, I was joking with Robert a little bit. I said, Robert, do you still have clients that will come in and they'll bring in a shoebox? In fact, I used to have a guy I worked with at a radio station. He would go to a business meeting in a restaurant, and he was just one of these guys that was doing 6 things at once. And he'd grab napkins, and he'd start writing on the napkins, and you'd have to follow him after the meeting, picking up napkins after. This wasn't Charlie, by the way, so I want to put that right out there. And you'd have to follow him and pick up the napkins. They had all the ideas for the meeting. Do you have guys that you come in, don't mention names, of course, but they come in and they just dump the shoebox on your desk and you're going, oh my gosh.
Well, we make sure they're neat with the shoebox.
Okay.
I've had a couple of shoeboxes already, and the shoeboxes aren't too bad. It's the file folder box that's where the things are stuffed in. But actually, the last 2 people with the boxes, everything was very neatly bundled and categorized within the box, and that is fine because then it's easy for me to stack and look at it later. It's the loose, it's the grocery shopping bag that's a little more challenging.
Yeah, well, I do the shoebox because you get stuff throughout the year, and man, there's nothing worse than trying to find something when your accountant goes, I need this, and it's like, oh my god.
So I use the Expando file all year long. Just stuff.
That's what I do.
And that's what I've got them, hang on to them for all the information under normal circumstances. 3 years is safe, unless you're doing gross negligence with the government. Then it's 5. You should have at least 5 years to keep them, but just keep your records, and it's literally you can come back and they can review, and we talked about keeping records for mileage, and I have one case where some people had major medical deductions. Unfortunately, they had some major medical issues, and it was so large the IRS did an audit, and they had to produce all the information. We did it because they were great on record keeping, but what
if they weren't?
They'd deny it.
Even if, let's say, the guy had kidney dialysis or whatever, and it could be medically proven this guy had to go to Portland.
They would accept
Yeah, they have the right. They'd have the records. They'd have the hospital's going to have records.
Yeah, but what if they didn't have the mileage records to?
They could go back. Those you could go back and reconstruct.
Yeah, you can. Okay.
But it's the key thing is. You have to be, and we do not keep the records in our office, and we don't necessarily have to see the specific records. And I have clients that, I work with them. They summarize everything very nicely. But my caveat, my standard statement is, if you're ever audited, you need to be able to produce the proof upon which we are basing this return.
That's good.
I mean, that's just if we have to prove it, you have to be able to produce the information.
What are the things we overlooking? We talked about medical deductions, 62 and over. We spent a lot of time talking about mileage, and I appreciate that because you have these different categories of miles. I started taking mileage records in my car, and I can't remember who it was, but I said, well, I'm just keeping one book. And somebody said, maybe it was you, John, said, you better be keeping separate books because your home-based business and your unreimbursed business expense for KGAL are different at different rates.
Well, those two, actually, KGAL and business would be the same rate, but you still have to attribute the correct mileage to the correct job. The business mileage is the same, and it's going to be 55 cents, I believe, for 2013.
Does it vary on the age of the car?
No.
Okay.
It's just flat mileage, but the charity deduction and the medical deduction are different.
What are the things we're overlooking?
Those are the good things. We're going to talk more in the future. Another very common one, again, popped up this week. Talked to some people. We send our kids to college, or we went to college ourselves, and we start paying back those student loans. People forget that interest they are paying is a deduction.
Federal and state, or both?
On federal, and in turn that works down to the state because a deduction means that you are reducing the income level, the adjusted gross income. You're limited up to $2,500. Some people, I have one client that they paid about $6,000 in student loan interest, but you still are allowed to deduct up to $2,500. That's very common. People forget about it because the lending institutions aren't sending out the we call 1098Es, the notification. So when someone comes in, we ask every one of them, did you have student loan interest? And then we go and we get that form for them.
If they didn't get the form, can they still get that information from the lending institution?
Almost always. It's now again, student loan interest has to be an approved source. They also have to have used that at an approved institution.
So it can't be Uncle Fred saying he paid my college and he charged me.
That's correct.
Can I ask a quick question about mortgage?
Sure.
Okay. This is what I try to counsel people about debt. Say I'm in the 28% tax bracket. Okay. And I got a mortgage and I write off my deductions, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm really only getting 28 cents on every dollar of mortgage interest, correct?
Correct.
Okay. That's what I've been trying to tell people, and they think that, so that's just...
Yeah, it's what you're doing is you're reducing the income upon which your taxes are going to be applied.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the rule of thumb.
We need to take a break real quick, and then we'll come back for a few final minutes here on Valley Talk. We want to make sure we get all our sponsors in here. Thank you for listening to us. We're talking about taxes, and we'll do some more in just a moment.
Yeah.
Going out to lunch at a nice restaurant can be expensive, and the big portions put you more in the mood for a nap than a productive afternoon. Mama's Fine Italian to the rescue. The small appetite senior menu is just right. Anyone and everyone is invited to order from the Light Appetites menu for lunch from 11 to 4 p.m. with tasty entrees beginning at only $3.95. Why go hungry or go anywhere else for lunch? Eat healthy, eat light at Mama's. Closed Sunday and Monday, so make the most of Tuesday through Friday and join your friends at Mama's for lunch. Dinner only on Saturday. Mama's features charbroiled steaks every day. Make reservations for dinner or pick up a bottle of fine wine. Seating is limited, so please call for reservations. 541-451-5050. That's 451-5050. Mama's Fine Italian and Wine Shop on West Oak between Main and 2nd in Lebanon, across from the Big Blue Napa Auto Parts building.
When you look out across the Willamette Valley, you'll see plenty of banking choices. Willamette Community Bank is here to give you an option that's pretty unique, like no other, in fact. Hi, this is Sue Kalina, Relationship Manager. Willamette Community Bank provides an alternative to large national and regional banks by offering customized financial services and local decision-making to benefit local people, local families, and local businesses. How many banks can say that?
Willamette Community Bank, service like no other. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Shop now, Lancaster Mall.
Enter to win the Lancaster Mall KGAL K-Show Valentine Getaway, valued at almost $500. Prizes include one-night stay at the Inn at Spanish Head Resort Hotel in Lincoln City, La Quinta Inn and Suites in Newport, Oregon Coast Aquarium tickets, flowers from Lollipops and Roses in Salem, and a delicious box of chocolates from Victorian Chocolate Factory in Lebanon. Sign up now to win a Valentine Getaway at the display near Bath & Body Works and the Lancaster Mall. Log on to KGAL.com for more info.
Lancaster Mall.
The Willamette Master Chorus, Director Paul Clemmy, special guests and soloists wrap up the French Connection season with their winter concert. 2 chances to catch this exciting concert: Saturday the 23rd at 7 p.m. or Sunday the 24th at 3 p.m. The concert will feature the rarely heard dramatic oratorio by Hector Berlioz, The Childhood of Christ, with full orchestra and soloists. Go to their website, WillametteMasterChorus.org, for more information or to purchase tickets. The Winter Concert by the Willamette Master Chorus, Saturday the 23rd at 7 p.m. or Sunday the 24th at 3 p.m. Hudson Hall, Willamette University in Salem.
From PCs to the internet, Kim Commando has the answers. Saturday mornings on News Talk 1580 KGAL.
Welcome to Valley Talk. Taxes, again, the topic. We're going to talk to Robert White, an enrolled agent, H&R Block, for the final few minutes of the show. What are we going to leave people with? We've got about 3 minutes left to go.
Final thing was that we were talking about regulations. What was going on that was big? And in the tax world, the big thing for us was that in January 18th, the U.S. District Court enjoined the IRS from enforcing regulations of tax preparers. IRS has been on a program where they felt that tax preparers should be tested on competency, and that maybe they should take continuing hours, continuing education to protect consumers. Well, there's some people that thought that they shouldn't be regulated, and so they essentially were halted from doing that. Now, what I'd like to assure people is that really, in some ways, doesn't affect you in Oregon, because if you go to a professional tax preparer in Oregon, consultant, we're licensed. And the amount of continuing ed that we're required to take each year exceeded the federal. Federal is 15 hours. We're required for 30 hours a year. 30 hours a year. We're required to be tested before we get our license. So as long as you're going to a professional person in Oregon, and their state license number is required to be on their cards and their advertisement, you're going to be in good shape. So Oregon has been pretty good because they test us a lot, and I think that's protected the people. I just heard some people concerned, well, you guys are no longer regulated, you're wild, and I said, no, we are very controlled and tested, and I just want to assure people that as long as you're going to a professional, you are in Oregon, you should be okay.
I like the mortgage thing where we had people trading unregulated securities and all that good stuff. I think that really was a credibility shock for a lot of people, and who can we trust and who can we not trust?
Right.
So, thank you for being with us. First and third Tuesdays of the month. How about we change that and say, it was first and third, right?
First and third.
First and third.
Yes.
And here on Valley Talk, so obviously today is the first Tuesday of February. Robert will be back in the studio again on the 19th here on Valley Talk. Tomorrow, Paul Aziz, the mayor of Lebanon, will be in the studio. We'll be talking about a number of things going on in the city. One of the things we want to talk about is the fact that they can't hang on to a police chief. We'll be talking about that as well. And Mountain Man Fruit will be here as well tomorrow on Valley Talk. Thank you to John Gibson for being with us on the show today. I'm Dave Adams. Don't forget, a few more minutes to get in a Quiznos taste on us. Dave at KGAL.com, the email address. Bye-bye.
Locally owned and operated, this is the very independent News Talk 1580 KGAL, Lebanon, Albany, Corvallis.